No one. I gotta get through this. 6 years ago, no one believed that I could become a state representative.
I know some of you guys might be laughing as you watch the tears fall down the face of Jazz Crockett. Hell, under any other circumstances, I might find Jazz singing the blues to be humorous myself. But the problem is, Jazz Crockett is not the only one in Texas crying over her humiliating loss in the Democratic primaries. Millions of people in the state of Texas are now crying because the man doofus Democrats chose to replace Jazz Crockett. He just might be the definition of evil. You know, I don't use that term loosely. I don't use it very often either. It is rare for me to describe someone as evil. In all the years I have been doing this here on YouTube, I believe I've only described two people as being evil. Keith Olbermann, Kitty Boo, and the Wicked Weave Joy Reid. But as you're about to see, the doofus that Democrats chose to replace Jazz Crockett, this dude is pure evil. You know, there's an old saying, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. One of the reasons a lot of people are concerned about regime changes in Iran, historically, regime change makes things significantly worse. Happened in Libya, happened in Syria. Hell, look what happened in Afghanistan when John Biden abruptly pulled the military out of that third world dump. A lot of people are concerned that the regime that replaces Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran, it could be worse than what we have seen in the last 47 or so years. At least we were familiar with that devil, but there's a certain level of fear with the unknown. I know Jazz Crockett is blaming Republicans for her huge embarrassing failure. I know Jazz Crockett is claiming that I was cheated. Republicans refused to keep the polls open. FedEx was running late Tuesday night. All I needed was another 90 minutes for my votes to be delivered. I can tell you with almost 100% certainty, Republicans did not rig that election against Jazz Crockett. Because for the last couple of years, Jazz has been the MVP of the GOP. She was the face of disgrace. She was a constant embarrassment for the party of the donkey. Why in the hell would Republicans want her to lose? That would be like an NFL team intentionally injuring Shedeur Sanders to get him out of the game. You don't want Shedeur Sanders out of the game. At this stage of his NFL career, he sucks. He can barely complete a pass. You want to keep him in the game because it is a guaranteed win. It's the same thing with Jazz Crockett. She is one of the worst politicians in the party of the donkey. She lacks influence. She lacks the ability to make a coherent argument. The only thing Jazz talks about is fake racism. Outside of comedic relief, the only purpose Jazz Crockett serves is converting oxygen to carbon dioxide. She's harmless. But James Talarico, this dude is potentially dangerous. On the surface, James Talarico is a likable dude. He is charismatic, very well-spoken. He's a seminarian in the Presbyterian Church, which I believe is the equivalent of being a pastor. On the surface, James Talarico, he also seems harmless, right? For as long as I've been alive, the devil has always been presented like he's very easy to recognize. He's got a set of horns. He looks evil. Basically, the devil is presented like he's a complete dumbass, when the reality is Lucifer is brilliant. There is a reason he is referred to as the son of the morning instead of the prince of darkness. The devil doesn't approach you with a set of horns and a pitchfork. He often approaches under the guise of being harmless. On the surface, James Talarico seems like the average middle-aged white dude from Texas. But as you're about to see, James Talarico is evil. Like I said, I rarely use that word to describe someone, but the reason I am using it with James Talarico, he is pushing his radical ideology under the guise of Christianity. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel is in the description below. Earlier today on the second channel, talked about the ongoing tanking problem in the NBA and how it is ruining the regular season. Supposedly, Adam Silver is addressing this problem in the offseason, but Adam Silver is responsible for magnifying the problem. So if you haven't already, click the link in the description below, subscribe to the second channel. Steve Toth, I believe that's how you say his name. Steve Toth is a state representative in Texas who just defeated Dan Crenshaw in the Republican primaries. Since 2019, Steve Toth has worked at the state level alongside James Talarico. Yesterday, he was asked for his thoughts on this previously unknown dork. Listen to what he said. Watch for yourself.
I served with James Talarico from 2019 through to today. This guy is as evil as they come. There is a darkness to this man's life that if you doubt that there's a wickedness and an evil and a demonic presence in the world, you only have to look at James Talarico. He is an awful, awful person.
Those are pretty strong words. You know, we talk a lot about doofus Democrats here on the channel. We talk about Tim Walz and his obsession with the masculine menstrual cycle. For years, we talked about the incompetence of Cam Harris and John Biden. We've discussed how Gabby Newsom has completely destroyed the People's Republic of California, AOC, LGBT, Bernard Sanders. There's a lot of incompetence in the party of the donkey. But again, it is rare for someone to be described as evil. According to Steve Toth, James Talarico is living proof of a demonic presence in the world. He's as evil as they come, and there's a darkness in his life, which might explain why, to my knowledge, he's never been married. The question is Steve Toth right in his analysis? Is his description of James Talarico accurate? I'll let you decide. Watch for yourself.
But there are interpretations of certain passages from the Torah where some folks will even say that there is some subtle instructions for how to perform an abortion in the ancient world, certain things to drink, things like that. Before we go further, I want to acknowledge that our trans community needs abortion care too. Defending trans Texans is something we have to do every day at the state capitol. And you better believe I'll be giving sermons on that too. I want us all to be aware of is that modern science obviously recognizes that there are many more than two biological sexes. In fact, there are 6. Is both masculine and feminine and everything in between. God is non-binary.
The Bible doesn't mention abortion or gay marriage, but it goes on and on about forgiving debt, liberating the poor, and healing the sick. Christian nationalists like to say this is a Christian nation. Not only is that historically inaccurate, not only is that theologically blasphemous, but it's also just not true. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would forgive student debt. We would guarantee health care to every single person. And we would love all of our LGBTQ neighbors. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would never make it a Christian nation.
Does that sound like Christianity to you? Because to me, it sounds a hell of a lot like communism. Sounds eerily similar to the same sermons that Zoro Mamdani is preaching in New York City. Look, I am no expert in theology, but I'm pretty sure the Bible only talks about two genders. I've read the Bible. I've read some books in the Bible multiple times. I don't seem to remember a verse where God proudly admits to being non-binary. I don't seem to remember a verse where God transitions from questioning his gender to being genderless. This is just touching the surface on James Talarico and his twisted version of Christianity. According to James, Jesus was a radical feminist. I guess that means the Son of God was fighting the patriarchy. According to James, atheists are more Christ-like than Christians, which is incredibly confusing since, by definition, atheists don't believe in God. According to James Talarico, white men are the greatest terror threat in this country. This is the only place where I find myself partially agreeing with James Talarico, because this white dude is damn sure a threat. It all makes sense now. It makes perfect sense as to why Jasmine Crockett was kicked off the donkey. Doofus Democrats knew Jasmine Crockett isn't taken seriously. Sure, she is good at generating headlines in the media. She had a little bit of influence in the black community. Not much, but Jazz had some influence with black women. But James Talarico gives doofus Democrats the opportunity to potentially divide one of their greatest threats, which is the church. Or as the party of the donkey prefers to call it, white Christian nationalism. James Talarico is an effective communicator. He can eloquently present the evil that doofus Democrats want to promote. If you are living in the state of Texas, I hope you get your ass to the polls in November. I don't care who is running against James Talarico. Wyatt, Levi, Maverick, Gomez, Sanchez, doesn't matter. You better do everything you can to keep this dude out of the Senate. Because if James Talarico wins, this is only the beginning. We have seen this movie before. Young senator who seemingly comes out of nowhere. Next thing you know, he is speaking at the Democratic National Convention in, 2028. The mainstream media pretends to fall in love with him. He is described as a charismatic rising star. A few years later, he runs for president. He comes up with all these vague, feel-good catchphrases. Hope and change. Yes, we can. Fundamental transformation of America. In the moment, no one asks what he means by fundamental transformation of America until we wake up 8-10 years later after he has served 2 terms as president, and we ask ourselves, what the hell happened to the country? Of course, now we know what happened. Back in the 2000s, Barry Obama happened. And if James Talarico is not stopped now, here in about 15-20 years, our kids will be looking back at this period of time, and as they are standing in the bread line, they'll be asking the same question. What the hell happened to our country? Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.